a master or two, decides what its purposes are going to be for the next lifetime. We usually have 2 or 3 purposes, and then which body to attach to, which mother to be born in, to give it the best chance to accomplish those goals. So when the fetus is 3 to 4 months after the first trimester, then the soul attaches to the fetus. And then when that baby's born, there we are again. So we have all been, here's the thing about racism and prejudice, we've all been everything. By the time you know you're a living soul, you have had hundreds of thousands of lifetimes. We've all been African American, we've all been Asian, we've all been Latin, we've all been European, Caucasians, we've all been Asian, we've been everything. We've been mothers, fathers, grandparents, grandchildren, partners, husbands, wives. We've been everything. And so it doesn't make any sense to criticize somebody else because in our last lifetime that was probably us. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And when you learn about rebirth and about the ageless wisdom, things start to make sense. Like, how can a 6-year-old sit down at a piano and compose a concerto? I'll tell you how. He was a composer in his previous lifetime. That's how. And the soul remembered where he left off. So every time we come back, we move up a notch or 2 or 3. If we had a really spectacular life of growth, we may move up 3, 4, 5 notches in one lifetime. But by the time you know you're a living soul, you only have a few lifetimes left. You're coming down the stretch. And we probably have, a dozen, maybe 10, 12, 15 lifetimes left. That's it. So we have to really make each one count. You don't have to. See, the soul is eternally patient. It will wait. We don't ever have to do anything. If you want to take a lifetime and just cruise, you know people that are doing it. And no matter what happens, they seem to land on their feet. I mean, it's startling to see these people. They're not particularly good people. There's nothing particularly special about them. But no matter what they do, it always turns out fine for them. I'll give you a clue. That person was probably a paraplegic or something in their previous life, maybe autistic or something in their previous life. And so they have all this karma built up to launch them into the next lifetime. Now, they could either use it for tremendous growth or they could just use it like Teflon and just coast through life and nothing bad will happen to them. So that's how it works. And eventually we learn all the lessons that planet Earth has to teach us. And we don't need to come back in a body anymore because there's no more lessons to learn in a human body. We've learned them all. Then we do what Jesus did. He led the way. He showed us where we're all going. We're going to ascend into heaven. We're going to become permanent spirits, permanent consciousness. And then we'll be a master. We'll be a perfected human being. That's what the masters are. And then when you become a master, there are 7 paths you can take. One of them is the path of earth service. And thank goodness 63 of the masters have chosen that, and they're the inspiration behind all of humanity's great advances over the eons and all of that. So that's what's going to happen. We're all going to just keep being reborn in different bodies, maybe different countries, maybe different races, different sexes. And the thing is, when you come back, we come back in groups. So like a family, it's probably true that when you come back, some of your family members will be around you. You won't recognize them, but they will be. You'll feel closer to them for some reason than if you have a close family, you'll feel closer to them for some reason you can't explain. But you just feel like you know this person, but you don't really. You've only known them for 3 years. That happens a lot. Well, that's because we reincarnate in groups. Like I said, groups come back because they have a purpose for being here at that time. And all these kids and young people that are here now, they're here to help with the changes for Aquarius. They're here to get humanity back on track.
Well, Dick, I got 2 questions. I got 1 question for you, and then I got a statement. But the statement must be, hey, Dean, me and you must have been brothers in another lifetime because we've never physically met, but we've been doing this show for 5 years.
That is true. We have never been in the same one place at the same one time, bro. So that might.
You've never been in the same room with each other?
Never.
Well, you were either sisters or brothers or you were best friends, for sure. For sure. I work with, I'm a volunteer with two women older than me who volunteer as part of this continuing effort to get out the information. And they became best friends. They're from different parts of the country. They became close, fast, really best friends. So they finally asked Benjamin Creme if he would be so kind as to check with his master on whether they knew each other. They were sisters in Italy in their previous lifetime. Isn't that cool?
So we may have known each other in another lifetime, Dean. But the question I've got for you is, because a friend of mine asked me this, and I was going to get to that earlier. I think I may have alluded to it earlier. But we're talking about it going from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. But that almost seems backwards, because if you follow astrology, Aquarius comes before Pisces. So that's where when I mentioned it, So it's supposed to go in the opposite direction than what we see in our...
Yeah, the astrology that you see in the newspapers and magazines is for entertainment, and what you see is the opposite direction that our solar system is going around the constellations, around the zodiac. We're going in the opposite direction of the traditional direction of the zodiac, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The actual physical travel is the other way.
Okay, so that's why. So it's actually the opposite way. So it's instead of Gemini Cancer, it's Cancer Gemini and whatever is going that way, and then Aquarius, and then heading toward Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and going in that direction.
Exactly right. It's exactly right. Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah, that's the physical reality. If you were to talk to an astronomer, that's what they would tell you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I did not know that. Yeah, that's real cool. I did not know that. I was thinking that it was the other way, but because when I mentioned that to a friend of mine who actually is an Aquarius, and she was like, "Oh, it's my age." So she was glad that it was the age of Aquarius was coming up because she falls in that sign. So she was like, "It's probably my age." So she'll be glad to know that it's going to be an age of peace and an age of better understanding. So that's a good thing.
Oh, totally. And everybody's needs. Maitreya said that there's already plans on how to distribute the food. The food doesn't get distributed. We've got a surplus. We've got a 14% per capita surplus of food right now, but most of it is sitting in storage bins in the Western world, waiting until we get the right price to sell it. And if we don't get the right price, it rots. Well, there's already plans on how to distribute the food. Maitreya said that Benjamin Creme's master said, within 2 years of Maitreya coming forward, everybody on the planet will be fed. You know, as we're speaking right now, about every 8 seconds, somebody dies of starvation or a starvation-related illness, mostly children. This is why they have such big families. These poor, destitute folks, have to have 7 or 8 kids if they're going to have 2 or 3 left to take care of them when they get old, because they don't have nursing homes. They need somebody to take care of them when they get old. That's why they have so many kids, because they know 3 or 4 or 5 of them are going to die one way or another. So once everybody gets fed, the population is going to go way down. This planet was built to hold about 4 billion people. And so the population is going to go way, way down. The Catholic Church has got a lot of karma about not using birth control and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of karma that needs to be cleaned up, not in every aspect of life, but the Catholic Church has a lot of it.
Yeah, because, that's what a lot of religions do practice, is that whole concept of that the whole purpose of having relationships is to have offsprings, and the offsprings then add to the greater population that you're talking about. And that even goes back to some of societal things, because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that grew up in rural North Carolina, and I spent some time in rural North Carolina too, and we remember I actually lived in the city limits, so I didn't do a lot of farming, but we remember that a lot of people, their parents would have children, not necessarily because they were all lovey-dovey. I'm sure they did love each other, but a lot of times it was also to supply labor, because they knew that they had a big farm and they needed somebody to work that farm with them. Yep,
that's exactly right. So, there's a lot of reasons that are going to disappear for having a lot of kids. People aren't going to feel the need. Some people are going to say, you know what, I don't want any kids. I want to just work at what I love doing, and I want to dedicate my life to that, and that's it. I don't want any kids in this lifetime. And that's perfectly fine. You probably already had kids many times, in almost every lifetime, so take one off. It's okay, So that kind of thing, and then based on what I said about rebirth, you can see that obviously, if that's what you hold to be true, then abortion in the first 3 months of pregnancy is not killing anybody. It's not murder. You're just, a lot of times, actually Benjamin Krem said that his master told him that a lot of times the soul is actually relieved when the mother has an abortion in the first 1 or 2 or 3 months, because every baby, every pregnancy has to have a soul. And there are souls that aren't ready to come back yet. They're still learning lessons in the spiritual kingdom, or they're being put in a position where they don't have a chance of learning and growing, and it's total poverty and abject poverty in some place. It doesn't serve them to be born there. So when that pregnancy actually goes away, a lot of times souls are very relieved, because now they don't have to rush back before they're ready, and because they can look for a place that would be beneficial for them to provide service to the rest of the world and to learn and grow, which is our job, learn and grow and serve. And once people start to accept this, here's the thing. I told you Origen taught it. Well, there was a pope. It was Pope Justinius. It was in the 16th century. He had a girlfriend that hated the idea of reincarnation. So he held a diocese when he knew the Pope couldn't attend. This guy was an emperor. Emperor Justinian in Rome, and he held this diocese when he knew the Pope couldn't attend, and he made teaching rebirth anathema. You can find this. You can look it up in the Catholic Encyclopedia, for example. It's in there, and he had all of the examples of rebirth in the Bible taken out. They were all removed. Well, he missed a couple. There's one where Jesus and his disciples come across a blind man. He was born at birth. He was blind at birth. And his disciples said to Jesus, "Who sinned that this man be born blind, he or his parents?" Now, if he was born blind, how could he sin and cause that blindness unless he had a previous lifetime? It was they just understood it to be automatic. Another one was where the disciples said to Jesus, "Is John the Baptist Elias returned?" And he didn't say, "What a stupid question." He said, "Yes, he is." So they understood it. That's why Jesus didn't have to teach it. Everybody understood it then. But it was deleted from the Bible by the Emperor Justinian back in the 1600s. So that's one of the things that Jesus will teach too. He'll say, it just makes sense. I mean, we can't expect it to be perfect in one lifetime. That's just asking too much,
Because one of the things that I understand, and like I said, I don't pretend to be a totally religious scholar, but one of the things that I understand is that a lot of the books have a lot of similarities, and a lot of times people want to concentrate on the differences. But there are a lot of similarities between the Bible and the Quran, and even the teachings of Buddha and some of the other great religious books. And from what I understand, the basic message in all of the books is a message of love.
It's a message of love, and the other thing that's true that every religion has its version of is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, the golden rule. It's in every major religion in the world. And you're absolutely right about the similarities. I used to teach, and one of the things I did was I typed up a summary of the world's major religions, and so that my students, I handed it out so my students could read it in class. And we went over it, and they were blown away how similar these religions are, which is fine. It's just that there are many paths to God, and no one has exclusive rights. That's the thing about St. Paul. St. Paul was a fanatic. He was. Before he had the conversion on the road to Damascus, he was a fanatic against the Christians. He actually held the coats for some of the people that were stoning Christians so that they could throw better and throw harder. And then after his conversion on Damascus, he became a fanatic for Christianity. And so he wrote things that weren't he got carried away in what he wrote. A lot of what he wrote was true, but a lot of what he wrote was his idea, like believe only in me if you want to get to heaven. That was St.
Right.
Paul. That wasn't Jesus. Jesus didn't say that. Jesus knew there were many paths to God, and that the planet is set up to have many paths on purpose, so that people, or wherever they are on the planet, have at least one path, if not more, to God. And so, that's something that St. Paul said because he was a fanatical guy. And, thank God he was, because he wrote a third of the Bible.